Oslo on a regular basis because it's very fun to see how this city, and particularly the waterfront, is developing. And one of the last projects that Ellen showed you will now be presented as part of the presentation from Geir Hoversen. Geir, come up to me, who represent Alab, architect company in Oslo that has been involved in several urban transformation projects in the city. So you will take us through some of your diamonds. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for being invited here. Let's figure out how this works. I was so lucky 10 years ago to do this competition with the MVRDV. And my job the last 10 years has been to be chief architect for this new development, the new central business district of Oslo. As Ellen said, you need a clear vision. You need a strong and a good developer, but you also need a strong and good municipality. And I think that despite all the resistance that this project has had, it shows that if you believe in what you do, you will succeed in the end because of this cooperation. I run the office with one of my best friends called Odd. Geir in Norwegian means spare, and Odd means spearhead, but we are quite friendly. We run an office with around 40 architects, designers, interior architects, planners, and people working only with communication. We are a multidisciplinary office, and we see and feel quite strongly that that is needed to answer all the questions that is ahead of us. This, as I said, being my biggest project working development the last years. What we experienced in working with just planning and contemporary architecture. To the right you see the bank project, the biggest project that I also was responsible for, developed also by MVRDV, the mid-building, is the definition of space. We very early discussed what can we give back to the city. And I think also what's special about this building is what I call it's a social democratic way of organizing a building. That's quite different, I think, from ordinary headquarters that you see elsewhere in the world. Because what we did is to say, yeah, we have to give the best to the city. So this is a passage in between the buildings. It's modulated as a sculpture, as a cathedral, and this is then some of the new urban spaces. What you also see is all the social program of the buildings are on the outside of the building, hanging and continuously tied together with stairs. This is where all the bank people go out and drink their coffee and meet. So the building is turned totally around. So this is then the normal spaces. The best, of course, is giving to the employees the top and the view. The bank management said, no, we will be somewhere else in the building. The best is for all the workers. And I think also that attitude is something that's very strong in Norway. This is where all the dealers are sitting, so if we did anything wrong here, the rent would go bad. Other projects we have done for contemporary architecture at the same time, and the office did both the DNB and the Statoil building, the two of the biggest buildings in Norway at the same time. What we did here was to try to use as little park as possible, making these huge cantilevers and as little footprints as possible, and tie the building together around a central core so that all employees meet. And they mingle in this common square. And all our buildings has been defined around how can we make people meet? How can we create innovation and make the building not only sustainable as a building, but sustainable as a working place, inspiring place to be. Other buildings the office has done is culture buildings, like this, for example, the world's northernmost cultural house in Hammerfest, where it's total dark now. So we made this glowing building as a meeting place for the city. So in all our projects, we're trying to find what can we give back and how can the city interact as an urban space for the best and be a generator. And then things started to happen. We had a huge conference, like many offices do in Norway. We went away for a week and said, we have to do something totally different. We cannot continuously make all this grand architecture and make the architecture solve all the problems. We have to do it differently. But why and how? So we said, that we have to put everything we do into a bigger picture. And if we cannot explain what we do in a bigger picture, it doesn't make sense. We have to take responsibility of the whole development. That's the architect's role. We have to be part of this together with the developers and municipality and not only be designers of buildings. So what we did was totally redo what we normally did and engage ourselves in politics, debate. We had started research programs with the schools. We started doing lectures, very active in social media, and suddenly a lot of things started to happen. We had to move totally outside our own box of what an architectural office is and meet new disciplines. And then suddenly a new office emerged. And we had a discussion. We cannot do everything. We can make more sustainable buildings, but we found out what we can do, because the real challenge is Oslo. It's growing fast. It's a small village compared to Istanbul, but it's a fast-growing city. So what we can do as architects and planners is to contribute to a sustainable challenge and make cities denser with quality. And then we said, yeah, let's do that. Let's start working on this next to only doing contemporary architecture. We soon found out that we had to make totally new methods. We had to develop new programs for urban planning. We couldn't use the normal architectural tools. We had to redefine and ask for extra programs for making buildings, roads, and all this stuff, because it didn't exist in the way we had to do to make this fast. And in that way, we redefined the architectural role. So then, in a year, by working totally different, using totally new methods, working with new peoples, we started to put the questions the other way around. And we said, okay, how can we create best possible city life? That's the goal. And what program and qualities do we need to support the city life that we want to make? And how can we then use the architecture to contribute to these spaces? Instead of like working as we used to do, making architecture as generators and places. And then we did all these 10 urban planning huge competitions, and what happened? We won 9 after each other at the same time, and we didn't make, we just made strategies. We didn't make like normal, and we used other kinds of people than we normally did. So what I'm going to do now is to go through 3 of this, because it discusses Oslo in a different way. One is Bjørvika, from harbor to city. The other is Furuset, that Ellen talked a little bit about, is how to make suburbia into a city. And the third is Vollebekk, another competition we did in Oslo, how to make industry into a city, because that's what it's all about now in Oslo, to create a city. This is Bjørvika. Before anything was there, can I point with it? Here's the barcode and all this area that is now under development, owned by HAV and OSU. This is the winning entry from 2003 we made in Rotterdam with MVRDV. And this is how it looks now. The next challenge is what do we do with this inner bay? And the plan is sent out just in a few days to Ellen after she's put some remark on it. And then we will agree, and then hopefully this will be the plan. So what do we make inside here? Is it a project, or is it, and how do we do it? So how does the city meet the fjord? And how does the city relate to the neighbor parks? So we merged together some with competitions, Vankunsten and other architectural firms, and had a lot of different workshops working together closely with the client and also municipality. But we started the other way around, because this is how it looks now, but we started with a program. How do you want the city to meet the fjord? We want an openness to the fjord. We want, what do you call it, like fingers. And we wanted restaurants. We want all these nice places. We want shops. We want people to meet. We want offices. We want housing. So, and we started then by working with the program. How do we want this to happen? And then we said, this is not a series of projects. What we are doing is creating a city. So the black arrows you see are the main lines, the roads. So this is the parks. That's part of the big plan that the municipality makes. This is the new main roads. And this is the inner roads. So what we did is to organize all this small pathway, all these looks, all this series of walking from space to space, and the total hierarchy of making an exciting city with destinations. How to look from the barcode through the niches, through a small gate, into a plaza, between buildings and out to the fjord and further on. How to make this fjord meet the city. And carefully with various landscape architects and planners, close in dialogue with municipality and the developers, we worked with every single space, defining the program, who's using it, for what, how big is it, have you seen this before, is it a good space, and defining what's private, what's semi-private, making the small space on the corner where the bus stop, making the small pockets in between the houses, and making this filter that will be a city, not a project. And then after having all the discussion, all the buildings started to emerge as structures and ending up like this. So the city meets the fjord, we call it porös, an openness between the buildings. Bigger structures defining and being walls towards all the other spaces and all the other streets. And then making a clear hierarchy that altogether makes a city. Seen from the fjord, you will get this view to the left, designed by Vankunsten, part of the whole project. And we were very afraid that this should be like you meet a project. This is the city, it's the city growing. It's not the project after project. And I think that's a critical issue. First make the strategy and then make the architecture, not the other way around. So then we have this structure. It will be made by a lot of different architects. Maybe some Turkish if you manage to discuss with a developer that sits there. And then we work through all these streets, making all these spaces that meets the sea and the fjord, and also taking care of all the small corners and the shops and all these tiny places that we need. And this is how it will look. It's about 160,000 square meters. It's a huge mix of apartments, huge differentiality of spaces, and I think it will be a great city. We plan to start working in August. So this will, it will be fun. Another project which is totally different is Furuset. It's suburbia. 97% of these are living there. It's not Norwegians. It's a poor area. They have a mosque and these houses. They have a huge street that passes by. and that's it. It lies in Groruddalen, part of the development area that Ellen talked about. And this was an open entry competition arranged by FutureBuilt, trying to be this new sustainable city. And how do you do that? How do you repair or fix suburban like that? Because it has nothing. So what we said, if we zoom out and then we remember what Ellen has said, Oslo's qualities, it's the wood, marka as we call it. It's urbanity and being in the city, and it's the fjord. Obviously we cannot bring the fjord up there, but we can give them connection to the wood and we can transform it to a city. So then we said, okay, let's do that. So what we did was make a bridge over the street, and we connected from both sides of Oslo the green through the whole valley. So you can go skiing or bicycling or running through the whole area, not being a dead end. And then we made a street, and we said, okay, between this cross, the street and the valley, we can make a plaza. And on that plaza we can succeed and have people to meet. We can make one nice coffee shop in this program, and from there we can make this city grow. So that was the strategy. What we then did was more urban repair, making all these fill-ins. So we transformed the suburbia into more city-like structure. Defined also by generator project. And it's as easy as this. The pink is the new, and this is all the suburbia and the blocks. So what we did is just defining it as a center, making Furuset a city. Because all the people that live there, they want to be there, they are proud of their place. But I think this will be, Furuset will see a new spring. This is how we feared it will be, this is how we hope it will be. Covering the city, and suddenly from suburbia to a small village within the Oslo village. Small picture from the plaza and snow, willow snow. Last project I will present is another kind of challenge that we always see. You have this huge area, what do you call it, the sprawl within the sprawl. You have these villa areas, and then you have this industry. You have from the 60s, and you have some railroads, and you have this huge mix. And nobody needs this industry anymore. We have a railway station, and how do you develop this into what? What do you do with all this area? So we had to zoom out. Find what is this place as part of the city? How does the streets and everything connect? How does it connect to the neighbor areas? And how does it connect to the green and all the biking areas? What is the drivers of the place? And we had to look into what will these be in 2030. You have these huge growing areas around this area, and this small pink is the site and the plot. What do we do there with this industry? So we started with the same strategy. Because we didn't know what to do. So say, okay, let's start with the spaces. What kind of spaces and for whom? And if we start there, we will see what happens. So we work a lot with what are called BREEAM communities. We had a first BREEAM communities project in Norway, and we use that tool quite a lot. Vollebekk has the same. It has growth. It has 57% is non-Norwegians. You have all kinds of houses around, and they have nowhere to meet. So then we said, okay, let's make a place to meet. And let's organize these places within the schools and make connections so that you can find the tram train, you can walk through this area, you can walk to the school, and you can connect to the rest of the area. And if you can make that succeed, then we can start building more. So then we developed a landscape structure and make this grow. ending up in a patchwork of urbanity into a large-scale area that looks like this. So if you remember the first picture, we had this industry here. What we do now is densifying this to be one of the nodes, a village within the village, a part of the city. Each place has its own geometry. You cannot just take a structure from somewhere else. But it's a lot of structure and a lot of densities. And by studying the various densities and the structures in Oslo, we worked, and that's why we had to make a lot of new programs to make this happen. So what we did was trying to find what's Wallabecks, and I just showed this an example. This is a little bit how we work. And then we started working with the blocks, define them, creating the smaller spaces you wanted to have. We pushed the buildings to make the even more and all the small meetings, the corners, and all these other areas. We started working. We are very well aware of what Ellen said about this sun and all these rules that's coming. So it's important to, from the start, work with the sun, work with variation in heights, and make this nice. And then finding the different buildings that needs to be emphasized stronger than others, studying the sun. And then suddenly a block emerged. A block with smaller plazas, with nice inner courtyards, openness to the neighbors, with apartments with lights and nice sizes, sellable in the market. Balconies and roofs with the sun catchers for super sustainable development of this housing. And the sections, and this has a much higher density than normally would have been possible. But by carefully working with all these aspects, density is not, or square meters is not the issue. It's the qualities and the meeting places. So if you focus on that, then the density and all will come as a result. So this is how it looks now. This is how it will be in the future. A center of the city within the center, with its own plaza and a block structure connecting the whole area through the city. Zoom in on the plaza. They suggested maybe to have a hotel and a cultural house, and that was the last picture. I always bring this because it's a funny story. Making these competitions, when I sent the hours for my contribution, we made it in 2 weeks. I spent around 150 hours being part of developing this concept. But I also spent 150 hours developing this stair. But at some point, the devil are in the details. To do this, you have to know to do this. And I think that's the challenging part and the fun thing about being an architect. At some point you get good at doing this, but to lift yourself and being better, you have to learn to do this, and you have to do both. And I think also that is the challenge for the future of architects, not being reduced to only work in the buildings, but be part of the city development and also take responsibility. Go out and be part of the political debate, because I think that's needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Geir. And we are going to continue to be at the waterfront of Oslo. But some of you might be familiar